Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Weekend Toast. My name's Isaiah. This is Josh, Devin, and Ben.
What's up?
Sorry for missing last week. You guys want to lie and make up an excuse for why we didn't get to?
I think we saved some part of the world from some tragedy. That's what I'm gonna go with. We
Yeah.
we like super teamed up,
That sounds good.
and yeah, with great power, great responsibility.
Yeah,
So,
so-
sorry guys, but
How the world
Uh,
doesn't draft food. We really sucked at it.
the Falkland Penguins needed us, and
But so we missed last week, but we are back, and it looks like two, maybe three of us. No, wait, two of us have haircuts. Looks like Devin and Ben got haircuts.
I always cut my hair.
yeah, his hair's been shaved. I was
Saving
like,
it for-
can you differentiate the lengths of buzz cut?
It just looks very. It just looks
You're
very
looking at too many
fresh.
photos of Devin recently.
I mean, I did cut it last night. So, but yeah,
Oh. So guess
Yeah,
who's
those
not
are
wrong?
fresh.
but
It
I
looks-
do that every week. Pretty
know.
much.
Looks like you put a gradient filter on the top of your head.
I think it's just the lighting in
Okay.
my room now.
Yeah.
Oh.
I finally found a barber that does what I want every time I ask. And
Yep.
they just talk. I love it.
Is
I'm
Devin's
not-
head pointier than normal?
I think it's because there's a lamp behind me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's doing
You
something. weird.
definitely wouldn't be Dirty Dan if we were getting in an argument about.
Cool. Pinhead Larry.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we are back. We are back, and we've got some things to talk about today. We're going to talk about the Kanye West episode of the Joe Rogan podcast. I'm going to talk about some social media drama that's going on, and then the big thing, well, maybe not the big thing, the most exciting thing for me is season 2 of The Mandalorian comes out
What's up?
today. And so, but first off, we've got the Joe Rogan and Kanye West episode. This came out on what, Monday this week?
I think Friday last week. I listened to it on Monday.
Whenever it
Yeah.
was, yeah, it
been
came
about a
out.
A week ago.
It was like a 2 hour, almost 3 hour episode.
3
It was
hours. Yeah.
3, which is pretty normal for Joe Rogan. Like when you see an hour episode, you're like, oh man, that's kind of weird. That's
Yeah.
lame.
It was funny because like I listened to it and I realized that I don't listen to the full episodes of most of his podcasts.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I realized that whenever we were like when we talking about it this week, and I was like, okay, let me go ahead and watch the whole thing. And I was like, oh wow, there's usually this point at the 2 hour mark where I kind of just trail off and maybe or maybe don't finish it. Sitting through it though made me realize that. Anyway, what'd you guys think about it? I thought it was I'll save my thoughts. What'd you guys think?
I have never listened to a long at all interview with Kanye West. And I'll just say that listening to him for 3 hours, or well, 2 times speed, so an hour and a half,
Yeah.
was it was an experience. He's an eclectic thinker, I think you might say. Very stream of consciousness kind of deal going on. It's very interesting.
Certainly, yeah. I've been a fan of Kanye's music since I was like, I don't know, 16 years old. And so I had listened to some interviews, and then also some of the stuff that he said in the last couple of years that have gotten him in hot water. I went and listened to like the full interview, and I'm like, okay, it's not good, but it's not near as bad as everybody made it out to be by ripping that one little part out of context. But it did prepare me a little bit to listen to him speak, that I know like he's going to say some things that are a little wacky. And he's going to say some things that if you isolate them could potentially sound very bad. But if you listen to his full stream of thought where he finally comes full circle, then there actually might be some insightful stuff in it. So, which I felt like kind of how it was.
Ben, what were your first impressions?
So the beauty of an English degree is that I'm able to give a full book report on only reading a couple chapters. So let me give you my full thoughts
On the one clip you watched?
On the 15 minutes that you actually watched of the
Oh
3 hour
gosh.
interview.
Nope, he's done.
Yeah.
Okay, so no, here's the thing. I agree with Devin that some of the statements that he makes are probably taken out of context, but I think that's because if you have to give a full-blown interview after the fact to fully understand what a person says, I probably don't think that person's dictation is up to speed for becoming a president. And because, I mean, even the most clear, well-spoken politician can have something taken out of context and used against them. I feel like there's a bar that needs to be reached a little bit more in order for that to occur. So I don't think that he really won over my vote. I already voted, so don't have to worry about swaying me. But I don't think just because I understand now that he may be more coherent and lucid than I thought makes it where I think that he is lucid enough to his word, lead the free world. And so I know that Devin and I chatted, and are you Kanye 2020?
Or
No, but I mean, as crazy as the world is and as bad as this election is, if he runs again in 2024, after listening to the interview, I would at least consider it, depending on the other two if we get two candidates as bad as this election again, then I don't know. In 2024, I'm like, I don't know. I might swing my vote that way. But I was just like, I wasn't sure what to expect going in. And it was less about, for me listening to it, it was less about him running for president. And it was more about him as an ambassador for Christianity, because, you know, the Jesus is King album was enormous. And we know that he's been a very controversial figure and he's been volatile at times. And he is, I would say he has some manic episodes from time to time. And I think it's clear, we've seen them. But he did address in the interview that to control those and to the medication that he takes or he would have to take to prevent those from happening also totally neuters his creativity and everything that has made him successful. And so
he also said that's in our tap water and neuters us all.
He did too. Yeah.
He
said
so
fluoride. Like, I actually Googled that. Does fluoride inhibit the pineal gland? And I couldn't find anything that was from like.
Don't watch the Alex Jones episode. You'll start falling into this stuff.
yeah. But that was probably the wackiest thing he said that I was like, okay, whatever. But it's like, wow, if that's the stupidest thing he said, then okay, like I can, you know.
Was it though? Because
okay, so let's dive into some more of the actual specifics. So, like, obviously, I think we've all just kind of like, it was a Kanye episode for sure. He's got his, and I think he addressed some of them, you know, beyond the 15-minute mark that Ben watched. But I mean, he touches on some of those things, his past and whatnot. But what about some of the specifics? So he obviously talked about his approach to the election, but he talked about just you know, him being misunderstood, and then they even talked about, I mean, they talked about Star Wars. He talked about a lot of things. Joe Rogan at one point jumps in at like the 1 hour mark or something like that, and pretty much just kind of just interjects, and he's like talking about the way he thinks and stuff like that. And he's like, man, you just deconstructed everything essentially. What did you guys think about some of those things, like whether it was the music industry, whether it was the political system, whether it was some of the other stuff he touched on? Debt. Like what, like
he is so I think there's a lot of things that were encouraging about what he was saying. Like I do think, like, I mean, to hear him talk about his faith, I thought it was really solid. And he's a good ambassador in a lot of ways. And I don't think I wanted to speak there. I do not think he's crazy, but he is completely delusional about a lot of things.
Like what?
Did you listen to what his argument for being the president was?
That he feels like it's God's calling on his life. I mean,
it's true, but also he can get in a room and he'll surround it, he'll figure it out. Which I'm sure that's a lot of people what they think, but they normally have an idea beforehand. I mean, his thought on everything was, you know what, I'm confident in myself to go and figure it out.
Are you talking about the part where he jumped in and he was like, Joe was like, hey, so what happens if we got in an issue with China or anybody else? Like, you have
he did that on everything though. He did it on every single thing. He's like, I know, he like when he talked about the economy, he's like, you know, I feel like I've been in a really good spot to deal with that because I was able to get out of debt, you know, personally. And it's like, okay. On healthcare,
$53 million is a lot of debt.
Yeah, but he's like, you know, for healthcare, we need to figure that out. So I'm like, what I would do is I would promote genius and surround themselves around me, and I would talk to them, and like all I do is talk and travel with people, and I'd figure it out. And what he'd always do is he would say he'd figure it out, and then he'd go off on something else.
Yeah.
And so and I believe this is what he fundamentally believes. God has called him to be the president. Because remember, he talked about, he's like, he will be the president. That's
Yeah.
what he believes. He does not think it would be a good idea. He does believe it's God's will for him to be president, period. Which maybe it is. I'll leave that up for.
Yep. Crazier
but-
things have happened, I guess.
But coming from that, I think it's his faith in his calling and in himself that will he just be able to figure out everything. He also made comments like utopia is within our grasp. If only we just like said yes to the right things. He said a lot of things like that, where it's just like, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah, on those, I feel like I don't know, I'm glad that I guess it's at least encouraging to see that his brain is thinking outside the box on things and it's not totally outlandish in some of the areas, but also the utopian stuff. It's like, well, my personal theology says that that's never going to happen until Jesus comes back. But hey, if you want to shoot for the moon right now, then I don't want to stop you, you know?
Yeah, Lenin shot for the moon. Yeah. So, you know, let's just let anybody. I'm not saying that that's what Kanye would be, but like, I mean, all the good things he said were like, wouldn't it be good if things were good?
Yeah.
It's not which again, like I'm not taking him seriously as a presidential candidate. And I don't think it reflects poorly on him as a human being, but like, if people are going to come out of this and say, well, you know, he's a different alternative. And it's just like, I think that you might be a lot better off with either of the people running right now for president or whatever worse variation thereof, just because there is no plan. There is no, he's going to figure it out. That's the plan.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess to his defense on that is his, like, I actually was really impressed with that last 10-minute snippet that Isaiah talked about, where he was asked, what would you do if you were put in a situation, you're the chief, you know, you're the commander in chief. You've got to, you know, be in charge of the world's most powerful military. And you've got to, what do you do if you get into a situation where you've got to use it? And he stopped for a long time. Like I was listening to it on times 2 speed and it was
that was a very long time, even on times 2.
Yeah. And then he even mentioned that I just said a prayer about that. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. But then I was very impressed with his answer that he said, like, I would surround myself with the best thinkers in that area. And
who has not done that though? And who does not plan to do that?
Yeah,
like,
but
that's
I mean,
not a unique thing
like,
at all. Every president ever has done that.
True, but I think we have unrealistic expectations for the president. And I think that kind of a lot of that answer is like, it's like, yeah, that should be the way you go, is you surround yourself with experts and then you listen to them, because it's impossible to be an expert on economics, an expert on ethics, an expert on, you know, foreign policy, an expert, like all of these things. And I guess I found it refreshing that he was willing to say, I'm not entirely sure what I would do in that situation, but I do know I would surround myself with people who would help me make the best decision for the American people there. Whereas I've gotten very tired of I have a thought out, you know, or not, well, sometimes it's thought out, sometimes it's written by somebody else. I have a perfect answer for every single question you're going to ask me, and I'm never going to admit that I don't know something. I'm very tired of that.
No, I get that, but like in the end, the consequence is the same. They're still going to surround themselves with people they trust. And also it's not so simple as there's always an expert on everything and they have the right answer if you just listen to them. That's not true. There is no, like, I mean, there's experts on foreign policy, but they cannot even guarantee the right answers on things because there's a trillion variables. So look, like I loved how he just said, like, I just said a prayer right there. I was like, oh, and I agree with you. He was very humble right there. But when I'm thinking like somebody's going to seriously be the president, he said nothing that would differentiate him from any president in the history of the country. So, or anybody who would ever run. And so again, this is not me saying what a terrible person. It's just saying like, come on, guys, Kanye for president, like, he doesn't know what
that's what everybody said 4 years ago.
That's what everybody
said. No, I know, but I'm saying like, but to say that he's saying anything new, it's just like, no, he's saying he does not know and Ben, he will figure it out.
Ben, you made some faces.
I made them a few times. So I lean really heavily with Josh on this. But one of the faces I made, Devin, was whenever you said that you're tired of people saying that they have a plan and then not admitting that they were wrong. I'll give you that we don't really have in the political spectrum or political sphere politicians who are going to say, you know what, I was wrong on that. Glad I changed my mind. Okay, there's they'll pretend retroactively like they've always believed this or something. But the idea that we are just immersing ourselves with politicians right now who demonstrate a clear plan and an intent to follow through with that's not a thing. Like, we have what you get more is like vague promises about what they hope to accomplish,
Yeah.
and less about how they intend to accomplish it. So I'm over here wanting just even if they're willing to let go of it, and even if they're willing to change course, to hear, hey, here is my theorized plan. Here's something that I've thought through, and here is how I hope to accomplish it. This person did not get my vote, but Elizabeth Warren is an example of that. She tried to run on the platform of I have a plan for everything. And even if I didn't agree with those plans, it's still refreshing to hear someone who has actually tried to think through everything that they hope to accomplish in public office.
But
And so,
even there, though, a lot of her plans were not actual plans. It was just like, and we're gonna fix healthcare, and it's like, that's not a plan. You can't just call that a plan. That's hoping.
but I will say more than the average politician, she seemed to come to the table with more steps and more actual claims of how she's going to do it, rather than what did Hillary Clinton said this in her autobiography about Bernie Sanders, that the reason she lost is Bernie's over here saying everybody gets a pony, and she says, well, how are we going to pay for the pony? And so she got attacked for hating ponies. Like that was her summary of like, oh, well, Hillary hates ponies and wants to kill your pony. I'm here to give you a pony. And so
Like that Seinfeld episode.
we had to shoot the horse. Is that what that is?
No, it's anybody watch
Derailed.
Seinfeld
We are
knows that,
derailed.
yeah. I had a pony.
I'm gonna start keeping a counter.
But yeah, I agree with Josh that, any politician can say that I'm gonna surround myself with experts, but no, that's not unique to any politician, and B, that's no guarantee that they'll actually listen to them. Like at the beginning of this year, the generals that this was the dumbest thing. They said that they gave Trump 3 suggestions about how to handle this general this Iranian general, and one of the suggestions was just bomb him. And they thought that he would not pick that one because it was the dumbest option. You mean to tell me that you went ahead as the experts on this and gave the president what you considered a dumb option anyway? That's terrible. And so at best, they thought it was a bad idea, and they hoped he wouldn't pick it. But at worst,
that sounds like the Stephen Colbert version of events, because there's a lot of people. That's not how that situation went down at all. From the testimony of the people on the inside, like
talking about to bomb the Iran general.
Yeah,
that one. Yeah. Man, that seems like that was 4 years ago.
Yeah, that was this year.
It was. That happened in 2020.
Yeah. CNBC said has an article on it, but I can find it again for you later.
Well, I can imagine what they would say, but like that was actually a very, very good decision, whatever you think of the president.
And you're allowed to think that. What I'm saying is that he has the freedom not to listen to what they say, and it's not a guarantee that whatever like you said, there's a trillion variables. So to say that you fill yourself with experts does not mean that those experts are even going to do the right thing.
Like every intelligence agency in 2003 was like, yeah, Iraq has WMDs. Like, it's like, well, that was wrong, and they're the experts. There were no lies told either, which is another thing. But that it is an example of like, well, the experts said. It's just like, yeah, but they were wrong.
Well, yeah,
and it was a consensus.
Yeah, you also can't you can't. I don't know. Not like think that like there's a lot of disinformation put out there on purpose, like, hey, we're going in to find WMDs. And then a lot of people are saying, oh no, they're claiming there's WMDs there, but really what they want to do is take control of an oil source or something like that. And it's like,
but none of that turned out to be true. We never, every intelligence agency independently, I think it was like 16 of the 17 agencies. This said, this is what's up. There's been this whole thing on this is a lie. And I know, Devin, you listen to the president and he touts that a lot. And I know you're super influenced by him and his arguments, but it's actually not true. But that was an example of experts knowing something when actually they did it. And if their goal was to get oil, they sucked at that too because we didn't get any.
Well, you
Nothing
like there
came
were
from
some
that.
there were some saying oil, and another option, which I find this one the most believable, is that just it pays a lot of money to stay in a constant state of some sort of Cold War. And that's not necessarily a Cold War because there were troops there, but it's not like,
Pretty
our full
high,
forces
yeah.
or anything. But the military industrial complex, even Trump has admitted there is a military industrial complex and it makes a lot of money. And there's people on both the left and the right that are they've opposed any moves to like withdraw all troops from the Middle East because they make a lot of money by keeping them there.
That is, wow. I know that's a whole nother topic, but to say that that's why we're not withdrawing all the troops right now is after 3 administrations and various different cabinets and stuff, there's such disassociation from reality that it's just a money thing, and I'm freezing now.
No, you're good.
Oh, did I come through on all that?
Yeah, we heard
Okay.
you tell them they were wrong.
Yeah,
That's a side
Sorry,
topic.
it's
But
just-
that's a side topic, but there's a
That's
lot of
just-
people within the military,
which is a conspiracy
that are
theory,
fighters.
by the way. Doesn't mean you're wrong. But I
bit,
just want
a
you to
bit,
know.
a bit,
Not a
but
bit,
there's plenty of
quite a lot.
people within the military, including a lot of Navy SEALs and stuff, that would totally agree that, oh no, we stay in a constant state of some sort of Cold War or minimal troops somewhere because there's a lot of profit to be made on both the left and the right from it. So,
Yeah, that's.
well, I'll send you some stuff another time, but
Yeah, well, I'm
not crazy for
a
believing
Navy
that,
SEAL would
oh.
have a tactical understanding of what's on the ground, but not necessarily any knowledge at all about the overarching stuff. If Obama could have gotten all of the troops, if Trump or Obama, both of them, campaigned, and I think firmly believe we should get all of our troops out of Afghanistan, and they did not do it. That's an example of listening to experts, because the consequences of doing so, the non-financial ones, are quite dramatic. And it turns out that the situation was a lot more complicated than both of them had hoped.
well, no,
So-
there's a lot of experts that would totally disagree with you there and say we can continue to do that with smaller, like basically like
Smaller
small
forces. There's
teams.
like 1,200 people over.
Small
There's hardly
teams and
anybody
fields
over
can
there.
go in and do everything they need to do, but it pays more to continue to ship over tanks and aircraft carriers and have all that stuff. It just continues to pay more money to.
Then why have we downsized it so dramatically? I'm telling you, Devin, you're falling into conspiracy thought. It doesn't make any sense. And
All right,
you
well-
might be right, but just recognize you're talking conspiracy theory.
But when you talk about conspiratorial stuff, when you're talking about people making large amounts of money, then I don't know, follow the paper trail. But
that's
like-
every conspiracy.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, I don't know. This is a totally derailed here, but I don't think
I know. I just
crazy
think you're way
for
off.
maybe considering the fact that we do want to keep troops over there to continue to make
I
more
didn't say
money.
it's crazy.
There's a lot of
It's-
people on the left who you would consider, or you would think they would be anti-war and be like, pull the troops out. And they're not like that.
Well, and for the reasons I explained, it makes a lot more sense. It's the same reason we didn't pull out of. It took so long to pull out of Vietnam, because if you just leave when you're propping up people, then it doesn't work out well. But I'll
For sure, but
I'll
yeah.
end this digression if we want to.
Okay, yeah.
I
Ben
didn't
is-
mean to take us this far off. Ben.
So to bring it back to the actual episode that we were talking about, there were some other things, like you guys have really only highlighted like the presidential stuff on there, but he talked about a lot of other things. Like, what did you guys think about the fact that he, because of where he's at now in his faith, like he feels bad about listening to his discography?
That was a pretty humble. I mean, it would take especially for a creator, that takes a lot of conviction to be able to say something publicly like that. I mean, even to come to that decision internally. So I thought that, I'm not saying that necessarily it was, and I don't think he's necessarily saying this, that there's no redeemable value to this music or nothing good about his previous music, but he's obviously burdened by the former life he was living.
Yeah, I mean, he's saying I'm not going, like, anybody who wants me to go back to making that style of music, you can forget about it because that's not who I am anymore. So, I mean, I get it. Yeah, I still listen to his old stuff, but it's one of those things where it's like,
heathen.
yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, if that's a stumbling block in your faith to listen to music that is not necessarily like stuff they would play on K-Love, then yeah, then sure, that's your conviction and go about it. But if you can listen to it and just like, I don't know, I like the way it sounds. I don't support the message that it says, but I like the way it sounds, then yeah.
Would you guys
But
think, because there was a bunch of jokes going around pretty much that it was a 3 hour conversation with Kanye and Kanye. Like the comment section of it was hilarious. And there was one person that was like, Kanye's mind must see metaphors in literally everything. It's like someone gave him half of a red pill and he's looking into both reality and the matrix at the same time, unable to distinguish one from the other. Like, how do you guys feel like just listening to him talk for that long? That was the longest, like,
Well,
like, and he even touched on this, right? Like he was deconstructing like just he hates interviews with like reporters and stuff and talking about that there's always an agenda. That's why he loved that, being on with Joe. But like, I don't know, what'd you guys think about his, like when you were listening to him?
Toast is ready.
Okay.
Okay, Ben.
I found it interesting. Did you notice how many of he would make an analogy about something? And are y'all hearing me at all?
Yeah.
My internet is
You
terrible
froze for a
today.
second, but we still hear you.
Y'all, am I coming through? All right. Yeah. His analogies would turn into subjects in themselves. So he'd be like, "Oh, so this is like this. And by the way, speaking of this," and it's like,
Yeah.
what? You didn't even explain the first point, but okay, here we go.
No, I thought it was hilarious. There was one comment that said like, in a weird, and I thought I saw it in a positive light. I don't know if the person posting this said it, but it was like, because there were times he would say something about his faith that I was like, heck yeah, you go, and then it would be immediately followed up with something I'm like, But someone was like, man, he talks like he thinks like a child, and it's kind of refreshing. You hear just a kid that's just got the gift of gab, just going and going and going, and it is kind of refreshing. And so I thought it was an interesting observation that it's like his mind just goes and goes. And like at one point I counted, and he was like almost 5 layers deep into like a trail of a trail of a trail.
Yeah.
And like he joked about it, and it kind of pulled them up the layers of Inception, if you will. But I don't know. I thought it was interesting. It was cool. I think Josh, you said something to the effect of like, I don't think it means anything about him as a person. Do I take him seriously as a presidential candidate? I think he's serious about 2024. But he's on 12 ballots, this year, including some states you wouldn't expect, at least in my opinion. But
Idaho? Please tell me he's on the ballot in Idaho.
let me see for you.
I take him more seriously than I did before listening to it, but that doesn't mean I take him seriously. But that's the thing. I don't take either of the candidates we have in front of us seriously either. Like I'll just go on the record. I'm basically throwing my vote away for president, and I'm voting for senators and governors on both sides who I agree with who they are and
I
what
wouldn't
their
call that
policies
throwing it
are.
away. Oh, you said throwing away for the president.
I'm throwing it away for the president. I'm not going to vote for either one. I might write somebody's name on there, but it's like that's basically throwing it away. So
You want to write mine? I'll write yours.
yeah. You want to do that? Josh off over. They'll be like, who?
Trying to just find a simple list.
A rising star out of Texas receiving 1 presidential vote.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
No,
I can't find anywhere where it just has a simple list, but like I saw, I'm sorry about this. I'm trying to find a list. What were you saying, Devin?
So I may not take him seriously as a presidential candidate, but I will say more seriously than before I listened to the interview that I'm like, no, he's not totally crazy. He's out there for sure. His mind does not work the way most people's does, but he said this himself. If it did, I don't think he would be as successful as he is. It's precisely his mind working differently than everybody else's, which has made him innovative in music and the sneaker game and everything else that he's trying to get into. But I will say this, I do hope, and I hoped this before this interview, I hope this is maybe one of the first steps into changing the way that campaigns like are run and political debates and stuff. I hope that in 2024, we do hear more 3-hour podcasts with somebody like Joe Rogan or somebody else with a candidate where you're able to see through just the caricature that the media props up as this is who this guy is. In 3 hours, you're able to see that kind of broken down, and you're able to see who they really are. And you're able to also give them a lot more time to elaborate on some of their ideas, which I don't think that in our current debate system, 40 seconds is enough time to lay out your plan for healthcare, and also not only your plan for healthcare, but how you plan to convince the opposing side, enough of them to where they're actually going to pass this bill.
Yeah.
It's way
Can
more
I ask
complicated than
on
that.
top of that, Devin?
What?
Can I ask a question to you on top of that? Do you think that the candidates would even take up the offer to explain themselves for 3 hours, considering that Trump left in the middle of a 60 minutes interview?
If they don't, then they've already lost my vote. So I know
I
that.
think but to I think it's a middle thing. We always talk about, and unless you just in love with one of the candidates, the primary candidates for president, we always talk about the dream that is more than two parties. There's other options. Those people are on those trails. If you go and follow, they do,
Yeah.
maybe not 3 hours long, but you hear some of these people, and they're never the ones that make it to the final, the final two. I think what you're highlighting, Devin, the way I would say it is that I think our current, like, when it gets down to the nitty gritty and you're having these presidential debates, I think those are just jokes. And I think it's a joke of a platform to try to debate, because it's not about actually debating the ideals. It's about just making sure you're louder than literally they put these people through training about, hey, you have to make sure you talk, or because if you play too nice, then you'll get run over, and you're perceived as this. It has nothing to do with policy. You saw that especially in the first one. And so I think what you're highlighting is that, like, the current debate system and the way that we do campaigning with the big dogs is ridiculous, and it would be refreshing. And yes, I hope that in the future we would start to see some more of these longer interviews and see the humanity in some of these candidates. But I think it's bigger than them, and it doesn't allow for that at some point.
Yeah, and I think that if interviews like this got 100 million views, that people might be more tempted to do that, but it's not going to be anywhere close to that. I think the most,
but I'm hoping we'll get there, because podcasts continue to grow. Podcasts are probably the fastest growing media outlet that there is. And I hope that maybe by 2024, if not then 2028, like, and even the debates, like, man, because a lot of people, I don't know, I don't usually watch a lot of television, and I don't watch like the news and stuff. So a lot of what I see from the debates is just sound bites and stuff. But you know what? If the debate was on a podcast format, and it wasn't the current joke that it is, where they run for, like, I don't know, an hour or two, and they do 45 seconds on each topic. And even then they go over by 5 minutes, but it's still not enough time to really explain the complexities of their, ideas about some things. But in a podcast form, where I can be driving in my car and listen to it on times 2 speed and be at work, or, I can break it up and digest it however I'd like to throughout the week. Like, oh man, I feel like that's a superior way to go about campaigning and having these debates and stuff in the future.
Not to mention it's free.
But it's still a very, very limited audience. Even Joe Rogan has a very limited audience compared to the electorate.
So, and that's what I'm saying, is I hope that this is the beginning stages of shifting more towards that. So
it won't start with a Kanye interview, though, because he's not a serious presidential candidate.
No, Josh, he is serious.
No, he is serious. I mean, as a candidate, though, that is not a.
Don't set us up to have another one of these.
You have to have something to revolutionize institutions. You have to have somebody on the inside do something like this,
right?
Which Bernie Sanders did, but still, that's a bigger move in that direction than Kanye, certainly.
For sure, yeah.
But it didn't even.
DNC hates Bernie.
Is that even in his top 50 interview? Well, actually, I think that one's a pretty big one, isn't it?
It's got 10 million in the first 6 days.
Okay, but that's still not going to be near the tops of what he's done.
That one's a good
very
example,
well performing one. But
that one's a good example, though, because I never considered myself somebody who would vote for Bernie Sanders. But just listening, I did listen to that interview on Rogan, and very quickly it tears down the caricature of who the media puts him out to be. That, oh, he's this radical socialist and he wants to raise your taxes and all that stuff. And he, in the interview, talked about, like, no, the bottom 6 brackets would stay the exact same, and he would only tax the super rich and stuff like that.
His tax plan actually contradicted that later, but that's,
his plan is out there on the internet. If you go look at it, he has no plans to raise the bottom 6 tax brackets. And but everybody else says, oh, he wants to raise. I saw one thing that was I don't even know, it was fake news. And it said that if you make over $50,000, Bernie Sanders would plan to tax you 50% of your money. Total lie, but it was out there in the
Well,
world
that's a
for
lie, but
people
it's
to believe. But yeah, anyway, it helped to tear down a little bit of the caricature that's put forth that this is who this guy is. And you're able to see, like, I still may not vote for him, but I'm like, oh, okay, well, at least he's not as radical as, I'd been told he was.
He's
helps
not
you
the
see him as
scum of the
people.
earth. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it helps you see him as people, definitely.
So speaking of that, the last thing I'll ask you guys is just, I mean, it's no secret we're all believers in Christ and Christians. Oh, surprise.
You've
Um,
outed us.
But like, so what do you guys? I don't know. What do you guys think about? Because early on, he even touched on what I thought was really cool. He was taught one. He talked about his love for expository preaching, which I was like, oh,
That was a great clip.
yeah, that was cool.
Did you see
I
that one,
didn't.
Ben?
I mean, I didn't see the clip. I just saw like that in that part of the interview. But he was talking about like, when he felt like he had this call, to plant this church and stuff like that. And it was refreshing to hear him say stuff like he goes, and I like, look, I know I don't know how to handle the word or anything like that, but here I know how to make music. And so he went and did that. Like, what do you guys feel like? Because he talked about some dreams about stadium, like starting a university to train essentially worship leaders is what he talked about. But he had this vision of like soccer stadium sized places, just singing praises to God and stuff like that. Do you guys take any of that more seriously, less seriously, or do you really just not care?
I didn't understand what he was saying because he's like, I want to start a university with 100,000 people in a stadium singing, and I'm like,
I think he was
Wait,
linking.
is that the same thing?
No, I think he was linking. I mean, I'm not trying to decipher Kanye, but I am. I think he has this in his mind. He has a university, a training place for, worship essentially. In his mind, like I think he illustrated that end goal vision of like, just imagine stadiums full of people, because he was talking about he would build a university that sat and part of that would include a stadium that sat 200,000. And it would be in the round essentially, and just imagining like these huge choirs of thousands.
And recording worship music in that setting where you do have 200,000 voices singing at once. I mean,
He said 200. There's not a stadium that big.
Well, you haven't seen Kanye's plans.
Was he going to build one? Is that?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Who knows? But I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think that'd be a cool thing. And I do, I mean, going to like passion conferences and stuff and being in that like worship environment, it's pretty cool. I mean, to hear that many people like singing together, it is a powerful experience. I've even heard like people who are not Christians talk about going to a Hillsong concert and experiencing the power of like that many people singing praise to God. I've heard people who are atheists just talk about it is a moving thing that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, that would be pretty cool.
Ben, do you think like, so just hearing Kanye and just the past, I guess it's been 2 years now almost, since since Sunday service started and all that, would you take Kanye more seriously than you would say maybe some of these other Christian celebrities that like, we idolize in seasons and then don't take him seriously in others? Would you take him more serious or less serious than say like Justin Bieber, or any other Christian or any other music artist that is also a Christian?
A question for me, or did you say for?
I have a better like person to oppose, like somebody like, remember when Shia LaBeouf said he was a Christian?
Oh, I forgot about that.
Remember that? Yeah. And everybody was like, wow, this is amazing. And then like after
Didn't he say the A word after that though? And I was like,
after the movie came out, it was very clear that it wasn't the case. I think Isaiah, are you trying to say we were all kind of worried about that initially? Like, is this real?
No, I'm trying to stay in
now.
I'm trying to stay in the music genre. So you have other people, right? Whether it's like guys like Blake Shelton, Justin Bieber. Yeah, I believe it was him. I may be thinking of a different
country. Didn't he leave
artist.
his wife for his mistress or something?
Okay, yeah, that's
Every country music singer is a God-fearing, gun-toting Republican. So I don't think that like I would give much credence to the Christian by Southern standards of any country music singer.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're missing the question. I'm trying to find specific people in that because it goes into this idea even politically, like how serious do you or don't you take celebrities? Because right now there's actually celebrities who played a big part in the political race this time, and so they're like, the polls are showing that people were influenced more by people like Taylor Swift, The Rock, I forget who were some of the other people on that list, but like
Not Chris Pratt.
not
No.
Chris Pratt. And so anyway, that
Well, I kind of was contrasting him to the entire sort of um, uh, country music genre because there's this like, like Southern faith vibe that you kind of get throughout it. But I would see. I don't know if I would even say against Justin Bieber because I think Justin Bieber might be more legitimate in his faith than say Shia LaBeouf. I've heard Justin Bieber's new song with Chance the Rapper, but it's pretty interesting just to hear them talk about their faith. Side note, funniest line in that whole thing is when Chance says, "Life is short with a temper like Joe Pesci," and it might be the funniest line I've ever heard in rap song.
so
But either way, I think that Kanye, and I was one of the first people to advocate for Kanye's conversion back whenever it happened, and but I said this does not make him
One of the first. Wow.
be vocal about it. I'm not trying to be a hipster, you jerk. And so, but I do feel like he has shown a contrast from where he is presently to who he was before his conversion, and I think that, like with what we said about him, feeling convicted about his discography, that like, hey, I don't even hold to what I used to write and what I used to perform. I'm like, that is a very humbling posture to have. And so I do think that there is a growth and a difference in Kanye, which is great. This does not mean that he is the exemplar of the Christian faith for the entire rap community, or the hip hop community for that, or it doesn't mean that. But I do
that
think
he isn't, or
that
that he shouldn't be.
I don't think that it's wise to prop up any mainstream musician to being the representative that we all want for Christianity just because they became a Christian.
No.
I think that is negligent, and we end up giving a person more authority in their voice than they really deserve, and assuming too much about what they understand about Christianity and Christian doctrine. And to that end, we prop up too much about their skills in what they do because we conflate it with their faith. Tim Tebow was never the best quarterback in the NFL. That just wasn't going to happen. But a lot of people who loved his faith tried to advocate, saying, "Oh, he's just not succeeding well because the system's against him as being a Christian." Not necessarily true. And to that end, a lot of talented, skilled, more so musicians than myself, did not find much artistic beauty or excellence in Jesus is King, the album, as good as it may have been. And so I'm not gonna even say that that's his best album musically. I may have liked some of what he tried to do with in trying to express his faith, but I'm not going to prop up his skill set just because he shares my faith. And I wouldn't do that petition either.
I was encouraged by just seeing where he's at with it, because I think when he first got saved, like I've liked Kanye's music, since I was aware of it. And so, and anytime there's anybody in sports or Hollywood or something like that that has like a massive audience or platform where they can reach a lot of people and they have a salvation experience, I'm always going to be for it and hope that it's legit. I am always going to be a little bit skeptical and I'm praising God right now for it, but we will kind of wait and see. And I remember early on, like he went and visited like Lakewood Church, and I was like, "No, Joel Osteen, get your claws out of him," And so it was kind of it was encouraging to see when he talked about that bit on expository preaching. I was like, yes, the Joel Osteen, what do you call that? Blanking on it right now. Prosperity gospel didn't quite get its hooks into him. So, well, not entirely, but
I would say
he's a rich man, but
I would say the thing that I'm more concerned about for Kanye is maybe a sort of, I don't know if you want to call it sensationalism, but just I'm flaking on the word, But whenever he talked about name it, claim it, okay. Whenever he talked about feeling or fully believing that God has called him to be president, or God told him to run for president, or that he's going to be president, I am always apprehensive about hearing that, because like I would love to be able to say, I'm so glad God told you that, but we hear people say, God told me to do this job, God told me to pursue this person, or God told me to move to this country or something like that. Okay, don't confuse your hormones and your gut for the Holy Spirit. And so I'm always really careful about that. And I think even George Bush got credit for that whenever he talked about, God telling him to make a decision. And I'm like, ooh. So I'm always apprehensive about that. And I think the word Josh used was delusional, that he might not be crazy, but he probably is delusional in how absolutely he thinks that he may be right, or this might be true in a certain context, which is something that he carries with him from before being a Christian, which all of us do carry things, in our thought processes and in our temperament from before we got saved, and God works through those. And so I would hope in the future, as we've been seeing him become more humble in certain things, that he would also become more humble about the voice in his head, that he would because I agree that maybe some of the medication that he was on may have been stifling some of his creativity, but he would not be the first person with a mental disorder who tries to claim that they don't need medication, which is a huge red flag for potentially needing to still be on that.
All Kanye ever needed was the red pill, man.
I will say, like, all the presidency and stuff aside, like, my biggest hope going into listening to the interview was like, I was like, man, don't make Christianity look stupid to 10 million people. And don't make it look silly.
Christians have done that already, man. So there have been plenty of other Christians who've already done way better jobs than Kanye. Man.
Exactly. And so I'm like, we don't need another one, and as a person who was an early supporter of Kanye's conversion, I was like, I want to see this go well for him. And I think it's a good example of what salvation experience is for many people, where no, it does not fix your flaws overnight. But I will say that Kanye, he's aware of his ego, and he talked about that in the interview, that he's got to make sure that his ego is not what's driving him to do things for himself anymore. And he's aware of the fact that he can be narcissistic, and he's aware of the fact that he can have some of these bipolar episodes and stuff like that. And I see that he's trying to work through it, but he's not, ruled by them anymore. And so I think it was a good example of a salvation experience for a lot of people, that you don't just turn into a new person overnight, but there is improvement there, and there's awareness of your flaws. And also, we got to keep in mind with the whole, God told me to do this. There's a lot of Christians who very young in their faith go through something similar like that. It may not be as grand as God told me to be the president, but I know I've had those, experiences before, where I was fully convinced that God was leading me to do something. And, later down the path, I found out it wasn't. And that was a learning experience. And so we'll see how it goes for him. But I was encouraged to see where he's at in his faith, and see that this wasn't a Shia LaBeouf thing where it was a power grab. A lot of people were calling his Jesus is King album, oh, he's just trying to pander to a new audience and try to suck them in and gain more money from it. And it's like, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. Well, they talked about a lot of things in this interview, even if we didn't touch on them all. One thing they did talk about, though, was, did you hear about his Star Wars conspiracy?
It was among so many others that I remember faint details. But
well, they talked even about Star Wars, which brings us to the more exciting part of today's show. It's that The Mandalorian Season 2 begins today on Disney+. You guys excited?
Well, but Kanye told us that Disney ruined Star Wars, not George Lucas, which I don't entirely agree with. And this is not a George Lucas project, so this is, this is not Kanye approved, is what I'm saying. But anyway, thoughts on the season, guys?
I don't have any thoughts because I haven't watched it yet, but I'm
Well,
very excited about
predictions,
it.
maybe. Yeah, maybe what do we think is going to happen? I think that this is the season that ruins the show.
Oh, dude, don't do that.
Well, I can explain myself. I love this show. Or, well, I guess I should say I really, really like it. That might be better. I just enjoy it for what it is. It's a little episodic Western in space, and they just do things. And yes, there's Baby Yoda, and I knew they were going to connect it somehow, but it doesn't need to be tied to, lightsabers. And it's just it's a big galaxy. Let them do their thing. But now there's all these rumors of stuff from like Clone Wars and sequel tie-ins, and I'm sure that the First Order is going to be, the Empire's trying to make the First Order with the little Baby Yoda, and that's going to be the thing, and everything's going to be about Jedi, and they're just going to ruin it. They're just, because Disney said, we have a hit now we just got to bring it in with everything else, and I don't want that, and I think that's going to happen this season. I hope it doesn't because I like the show, but they will eventually ruin the show with that.
That's just not true, Josh.
I love the Jedi. The Jedi is the reason I like Star Wars. So yeah, I can appreciate that last season. I mean, well, Baby Yoda kind of, he can use the Force and stuff, so there is a little bit of Jedi stuff there. But I mean, I can appreciate, like an isolated like Star Wars world where it's without all that stuff. But ultimately, the Jedi stuff is in the lightsabers is the reason I like Star Wars. So if they're gonna pull it in, I just hope they do it right. So
yeah, I know it's just. But here's another thing. This is more of a Star Wars world building thing that goes back to the original ones that always bugs me. And it's prevalent in The Mandalorian, and I saw it in the trailer for this next coming season. What is the deal with every few years, everybody has amnesia about the Jedi? Were they not super important to the Republic? And is Luke Skywalker just, are these people living out in the galaxy like, yeah, I think like the Emperor's like this old guy and he had a robot friend and his kid or something over? I don't really know the details, but they're gone now. But because like in The Mandalorian, he's like, ooh, what is this? And supposedly the Mandalorians have a history with the Jedi, and I'm just, I don't know. I can't do this anymore because it happened in the sequels too. It's just like we always have to forget that the Jedi exists.
I caught in the Force Awakens where it's just like the real like the idea that there's a legend, but I'm like, they had a huge building, but then I had this idea like about how what if the Empire had also tried to squash the idea that they ever existed? Like
propaganda,
that would be an interesting idea to explore, to see the propaganda around that, like trying to squash the hope of that by claiming that, they never existed. That was just rebel scum saying stuff or whatever it is. I would be intrigued to see that occur, where they tried to like censor that idea and they tried to squash the very notion that the Jedi existed. That would be kind of cool.
But did it successfully in 20 years?
But there you go. That's where I would be like, that seems a little unlikely. But I would be interested to see if that could be an explored idea. That would be interesting.
That'd be cool. I would like to see, like, I'm okay with the idea of we see like a little bit about the formation of the First Order. I'd be okay with seeing that. Like, I know Josh kind of used that as why he thinks the season's going to be ruined because they're going to try to tie that in. But I like Origins. And so, yeah, we went from, chronologically, we go from episode 6 to 7 and boom, the Empire's gone. But now there's the First Order. How'd that happen? And I don't know. Maybe they could weave in some of that stuff.
The movies didn't care to tell us. Thanks, Rian Johnson.
Yeah.
He did episode 8.
What are you hoping for?
Yeah, that's the one where the answer's supposed to be.
I don't know.
Don't get me wrong. J.J. Abrams is to blame too, but they just wanted a new little Empire clone because they were like, just go with what we had before.
Yeah. Well,
but
you got any predictions, Isaiah?
Mike coming through?
No, I think it's gonna be good. My biggest beef with it is that they don't just dump it all at once.
Yeah, I
so I can
know.
binge it. So that's my only
No,
issue
I
with
like
it.
how they do it.
We know we've talked about this, Josh. You
Oh, yeah.
love
How can we-
episodic
I
television
don't-
and the drawing out and
I'm
not being able to
sorry, I-
consume media in the way that everyone else does in 2020.
I
I'm a
forget who I
binger.
talk with on things. I'm like my grandfather. I just say the same things like, "Oh, did I tell you this story?" Yeah, 3 times. now.
Well, because the reality is like it wouldn't be successful if you just tried to. They would have had to have shot this differently. Now, what is cool is have you guys looked into like all of the tech that they're using, like how they're not using green screens, how they're using
Oh,
the.
I heard about that.
It's
That's
really
cool.
stinking cool. There's a video about it. So like they have essentially just imagine a big, like you're in this room that's just LED walls and ceilings, and they project the backgrounds onto there, and then you have a set that's inside of that. And so it helps with like proper lighting. All it's really freaking cool.
That's awesome.
It's new stuff. So, but it's pretty sweet. I don't know. I think it'll be good. I think it's going to. Here's the thing. I know it'll succeed. Now, as far as like critical reception, it's going to be Star Wars, and so people will defend it into the ground, even if it's not good, or people will bash it for no reason other than because of their own personal like frustrations.
Well, if the audience bad it, the critics will love it. So
What?
that's how that works.
What'd you say?
If the audience bashes it, the critics will love it. That's how that works with Star Wars.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm ready to see. The bigger question should be how big is that polarization going to be? Like how big of a gap is that? Like is it one of those like some people don't like it and some people love it, or is it like you're either on, one side or the other?
I don't know if it can get too polarizing because it's just a show,
Yeah.
Unless if they like CGI Luke Skywalker in there, like in one of those terrible faces that they pretended was a character
Well,
in
that's what I'm
Rogue
saying.
One,
So,
that
like-
would be awful.
Is it going to be like one of those where it's like it splits really wide like episode 8, or is it episode 9 where it's like you have people that like whatever, like it was fun but I didn't like it, or you have people that love it for everything that it did.
People loved Episode 9.
I mean, we didn't. We've talked about that, but yes, it was a good movie that was loved by many.
Oh,
Well,
Ben does love episode 9. Okay.
I didn't know.
people love Fast and the Furious, so
Anyway,
Dude, Fast and the Furious generally have a good structure in a movie and a coherent plot, even if it's ridiculous. But
see, there we go.
Hey,
You
I'll
guys just
admit
proved
the
my point.
the first Fast and the Furious movie, I still love it. I still think it's a great movie. I enjoy watching
look,
that
I still think
Every
the high
single
point is whenever Charlize Theron got dreadlocks. Okay.
one.
I did not see that one.
You weren't aware of
That's
that, Ben?
funny.
I didn't see the one after CGI Paul Walker.
I didn't even see that far. I don't think I watched anything after 4.
Charlize
I'm not
Theron
entirely
and
sure.
after that, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
derailed again.
Now I'm thinking, did I ever tell you guys about when I worked with the youth ministry, the teenager who, like 5
Yeah.
years after Paul Walker died,
Yes.
he like learned about Paul Walker dying and then would like post from these pages about Paul Walker, like miss you, and he's like legitimately grieved of him passing, even though it was like 5 years before.
Yeah.
It was
There's some, I don't know. There's like certain communities or certain types of people that I guess they just get really attached to these people. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very sad, but I still see people like on a weekly basis post stuff about Mac Miller. And I'm like, just like, has that been 2-3 years now? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, were they fans of him when he was alive? Because this guy, what was so funny to me is he had he'd never even heard of Paul Walker
Oh no.
until like 5 years after he died.
Oh man.
And so he watches Fast and Furious and then looks up like, oh no, my favorite actor died. And he would talk about it like it just happened. But it's just like, you didn't even know he existed until like 2 months ago. It was, I mean, I don't want to like, it was just fun. It was funny. It
Yeah.
was
Crushed
funny.
his dreams.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, I'm excited for it tonight. You guys should go check it out. I'm sure we'll talk about it in the weeks to come. Ben, you
Yeah.
got anything for us today?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, it was fun.
I got the wheel. Do you want me to just spin it, or do y'all want me to go through the options?
Just spin it.
Just spin it.
You just spin it, and then we'll hit what we hit. Yeah.
We'll hit what we hit. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, video game adaptations. All right, we finally got it.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Waiting on this one.
so TV shows or movies that you want to see based off of video games or video game series, they can be ones that have already been done, but you want to see try it again because you want it done better. So Devin, you mentioned earlier that like there's an Assassin's Creed Netflix series that counts because even though there was the Michael Fassbender movie, which don't bother with it, this might be able to do something cooler or redeem it in some way. So what you got, Isaiah?
Well, mine's simple. I think I've even talked about it before. It would, if they did it right,
Final
it would.
Fantasy.
Yeah.
I guessed it. Yeah. Sorry.
Aren't they making one right now? I thought.
No, so they've had a couple of like videos, or movies. The thing that I'm talking about though is it would be centered around the Dissidia games, which the premise of those is essentially imagine just a good god and a bad god, like in this world where they have to summon these heroes, and so the main characters from each of the main staples 1 through 15 get actually summoned and have to go on this journey. So it would, like, if they did it right, and it would take a decade, you could actually do the movies, like you could MCU it, to where like you did some of the main, like the more popular ones like 7, 10, 12 even, or 5. You could go do those movies of the game, and then almost Easter egg hint at this shared like universe that's going to happen, which would be the storyline of the Dissidia games. And then you don't have to go do a single movie for every single one, because there are some that would be boring, 100% boring, like 2 or 3, if you don't do it right.
Played all of them, huh?
What's that? Yeah. And so like you could Hulk those in the sense that like they don't, MCU, if they were doing it again, would not do a standalone Hulk film. And so you could Hulk those, you probably need to do 5 or 6, and then because the Dissidia games actually have had 3 parts that have continued that storyline where they keep getting summoned back to this world, and it's just if it was done right, it could be awesome. It would never hit MCU level just because it's not comics. However, it could be done really well.
What about Tetris?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see Halo done right. I think Halo has a lot of potential for a story there.
Halo was a movie.
The Beyonce song?
No, yeah, they made a Halo Netflix movie like a couple years ago. We said, a reimagining of it. Like Assassin's Creed's already been done. It was done terrible. Now the Halo one that was done, it was kind of low budget, but it was pretty cool. I kind of liked it.
No, there's another one.
Are they working on something right now?
Yeah, Showtime is doing a television series to be released in 2021.
No way, they are? Oh, that's cool. Okay, well, I got my wish. Okay, second option.
Master Chief is played by some guy from something.
Okay. Well, hopefully it'll be kind of cool. I have a second option, which I know is not in the making or anything. And I don't know. There may not even be people who are even aware of this anymore because this will date me. Splinter Cell.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Sam Fisher story. Man, I thought those games were so cool as a kid. And I feel like they were way ahead of their time. And I don't know, they stopped making them like years ago. And I'm kind of curious as to why they haven't tried to make one on the modern systems, Xbox One or PS4. But I think a Splinter Cell game would be kind of cool. Or a Splinter Cell movie would be kind of cool. Did you guys ever play those?
Mm-hmm.
Did Isaiah? Yeah. Oh, you didn't play them? Yeah.
Nope. Josh, what about you?
One that I just found out was in production is the Uncharted games. Y'all ever play those on PS3?
I never played them, but I've heard they're great.
Oh, dude, they were awesome. The only thing with it is like the game is kind of like, it's like if Indiana Jones is a video game.
Yeah.
And then now they're like, it's like if Indiana Jones, the video game, was a movie. And it's like, oh, wait, So, I mean, but it's actually, I was surprised because Nathan Drake, the main character, is like a guy in his 30s. He's definitely lived some life and kind of been a slacker and stuff, but he's being played by Tom Holland. So I guess they're going for a younger take on it. But I'm interested to see it because it's very those were awesome. I love those games. The first three, the last one, they didn't come out on PS3, and that's all I ever had. So.
Ben, what about you?
Legend of Zelda.
Ooh.
I've got a couple director options. Peter Jackson.
The Hobbit guy? Yeah.
Well, he also did Lord of the Rings. But okay.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Or Guillermo del Toro. Like, to see, because he did Pan's Labyrinth, and to see him try to do.
They look exactly the same too.
That is true. Oh my god. What if they're the same person? That's a fun conspiracy theory. So yeah, that one I'd love to see. But then on top of that, like whenever people say they should be a Super Smash Brothers extended universe, that sounds awesome.
So wait, I have a question about your Legend of Zelda one. Like, what game are you trying to turn into a movie?
Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, sure.
I've mentioned Majora's Mask. I would go with Twilight Princess, but I haven't played Breath of the Wild.
I still want to play that yet either because I don't have a Switch.
I would just say anything but that one where he's just constantly on a boat and looks like an anime character.
Oh, Wind Waker was awesome, dude.
Hey, Isaiah, I have a director for yours, James Cameron. Make him like the the Avatar. You don't think that would work?
I mean, it's not that it wouldn't work.
James Cameron could do a good one.
No, I think they would have to. I mean, yeah, I guess it would be fine.
Isn't he like a monster on set? Like he's a terrible director?
I have no idea.
Like Tina Fey and Amy Poehler in a one of their opening things for the Golden Globes was talking about the director of what's the Hurt Locker? No, sorry, Zero Dark 30. And the director used to be married to James Cameron, and they said, I for one fully believe in the reliability of a story about torture, especially if it's from a person who spent years married to James Cameron, and just like it's savage joke. But apparently it was like really rough to like Linda Hamilton on the set of Terminator. All right.
So that was the same lady, by the way. Catherine Bigelow directed both Zero Dark 30 and The Hurt Locker.
That's right. That's what I did. Okay, this one's interesting. Since The Mandalorian is a successful series that expands a universe but isn't about any main character from the series, what other expanded side character type stories would we want to see? I know we've talked about Obi-Wan Kenobi. I don't know if that necessarily counts because he's too main of a character, but what universes would we want to see explored more in a different way that doesn't necessarily hold to just the main story?
In the Star Wars one, I want to see not just a show, but I want to see a full trilogy, a brand new thing of its own on the Knights of the Old Republic story, which is what the Game of Thrones guys were supposed to be working on, but apparently, I don't know, it didn't work out. But that's what I want to see.
Yeah, because God is merciful.
You think it would have been bad?
Yeah.
No.
Well, by the way, this isn't about...
What Star Wars spinoff can be good, Josh?
Well, we know the first season of The Mandalorian is good.
Because it had nothing to do with the main series.
Yeah.
Josh, did you ever play the Knights of the Old Republic game? I think I've asked you that before.
I did not. No.
The story is really
I've heard a lot of people talk
It's really
about
cool,
it.
and it's set so far in the past. I think there's a lot of cool stuff they could do with it, with talking about the origin of the Jedi and the Sith, and just
I'd be down for that.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of potential there, but it has to be a trilogy. I don't think you could fit it all into a show. So, yeah. We talking just Star Wars universe, or are we talking other things, Ben?
What other
franchises?
What other universes are there, or worlds that are?
The world is your oyster on this, my man. Like you could have gone Breaking Better Call Saul. Like there's that happened.
Well, we already have that. Yeah, and Better Call Saul's fantastic. I don't want any other side projects from Breaking Bad, though. Well, it's I mean they won the slot machine with Better Call Saul. So just take your winnings and leave.
I think it'd be really hard to do. So there's part of me that wants to wants to see this, but then again, I don't because I have little faith that it would be done right. I think a Lord of the Rings trilogy on the first time Sauron rose to power, would be, it's a cool idea, but obviously Tolkien never wrote anything on it, so it would be very risky to do so. But
Well,
On that note,
Tolkien liked most of what was in the Hobbit movies, so I think they already kind of.
yeah. Well, yeah, the Hobbit movies were so. Ugh.
They're
What I
really-
think would be good though is there are 3 big stories in the Silmarillion that Tolkien even expanded on. He never finished them, but like expanded on them almost to the point of being complete novels. And so I feel like if you just did standalone movies, or maybe even like a mini series, like because like there's a couple storylines that like if you did like a 4-part mini series on with like hour-long episodes,
Yeah.
I feel like it could be done really well because there's a lot of source material to draw from that's just begging to be visualized.
Yeah.
So not the Silmarillion as a whole, because it's not a cohesive story. It's stories within it. So
Yeah.
I don't want to say all the names because I sound like a super nerd if I start saying this. Like, if they could do the Fall of Gondolin or the Sons of Hurin, that would be really cool. I don't know.
I like how you said you weren't going to do that to sound like a super
Yeah,
nerd, and then you did it.
I know I did.
Nerd.
Yeah.
Ben, Isaiah?
I mean, I feel like if it's done right, you could do this with so many different characters, like any of the X-Men that we only have known as adults, like take them and go do an origin type story with,
Like Wolverine?
no, like Gambit or something is what I'm thinking.
People have been wanting a Gambit movie for so long.
Well, like, but just one, I mean, they tried to do, but even he had that, even the movie they were going to do was just a movie about Gambit. Like, I would love to see, I feel like those would just be cool stories about them growing up, and just finding out their stuff. Anything from that to like, I don't know, a spin-off movie about Master Roshi, like just an upbringing of him.
What is that?
No,
I'm with you on that one, Isaiah.
Who's Master Roshi?
No.
He
Dragon Ball Z.
doesn't become that, and he's that in his old age. But like,
What are we even
the whole
talking about?
appeal of Dragon Ball Z is Saiyans and Super
Oh.
Saiyans and fighting, and I'm like, I find Dragon Ball usually pretty boring, so like nobody's going Super Saiyan yet, and so like a whole movie devoted to Master Roshi, I don't know, I'm not with you on that one.
I want to see what Yamcha's up to. Like no one wants
Yeah.
to see.
Nobody cares what Yamcha's up to.
okay, but to Josh's point earlier, what made the Mandalorian so good?
A character that was
Yes,
in
come to the dark side, Isaiah.
No, all I'm saying is like you don't have to have all of those things in order to do a movie well. If it's written well, directed well, yes, it wouldn't have Super Saiyans or anything like that. But it
Yeah, I
doesn't
would,
have to.
I would
is
like
it-
to see some well done Dragon Ball Z stuff, but
Isn't
not a Master
Vegeta
Roshi.
from the planet Vegeta?
Mhm.
and his
I
father.
lo- Great world building.
Father is also named Vegeta.
yeah.
But I think the
They
one
have
that I would,
brothers.
the one that I would love to see
I
the
think-
most, as we were talking about it there, is I would love to see a story about Professor Oak. I would love to see a movie about Professor Oak
I could dig that
because he was like
Is
the
this a
lore.
Dragon Ball.
No, it's Pokemon. The lore
Oh.
behind Professor Oak is that like he was once a Pokemon champion, all this other stuff. He has like ties with like Agatha, who's one of the Elite Four. Like I think a story about like Professor Oak growing up could be really cool.
That could be cool. And hey, in that world, I really liked the Detective Pikachu movie. I thought it was weird at first because I didn't understand why he was talking, and I was like, I don't like this. But then when they explained in the movie why he's talking, I'm like, okay. But I really liked just the animation and the style that they did that movie in.
It was done
And
really well.
I'd like to see some more Pokemon movies done that way. It'd be pretty cool.
I you just read the Chronicles of Narnia, right, Devin?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
So-
reading them now.
Have you read The Magician's Nephew?
Yeah, I read all of them.
Just finished
Recently?
it. Yeah, I just finished it
Okay,
like a couple
so-
days
yeah.
ago.
The world that they go to that's been destroyed, where they ring
Yeah.
the bell, the witch. I want to see a story about what happened.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
I want to see a story about how that world came to an end and all the dynamics of her fighting her sister. Like that would be an interesting thing to explore. The background
be.
on where the witch from Narnia, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe came from. That'd
Yeah.
be cool.
That'd be cool as far as an expansion, but even just well, I know they're doing the the Chronicles of Narnia series on Netflix. I think they're still planning on doing it, but I still want to see like a film or a series adaptation of The Magician's Nephew, just the book itself. Yeah. Be cool.
We are spinning again. I didn't ask permission. And we already got that one. Spin back this way. Oh, back to Kanye. All right. We can skip this one if you'd like.
No,
but
well,
it's
this will be a
about,
nice way to end it.
So a while back, Kanye, in one of his most prolific tweets, simply said, "I'm a fix wolves." That was it. That was the full thing. And being misunderstood, maybe what he meant by that was, I intend to do something about the problem about the wolf population declining, whatever it may be.
Maybe.
Well, then you wouldn't fix them.
What other things do we want to see Kanye try to fix? Either A, because we think he genuinely could fix these things, or B, because we just want to see what happens if he makes the attempt.
Huh.
I want the Oscar or the Sundance Buzz documentary called Kanye Fixes Wolves to come out that documents his journey, starting from he's saying in his house, I'm a fix wolves, and then like calling people like, okay, where do we start? All the way to like Yellowstone. That's
Narrated
I want.
Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah.
Yeah. Kanye wanted to fix wolves, but he hadn't thought of how he would do it yet. I'm gonna call a friend of mine. He's decided to call his friend, and like just that for like, get like the audience award at Sundance. I've been there before. Have I mentioned that? I don't.
Yeah, you have.
The Sundance Film Festival.
But
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Bingo.
This is I don't know. This is a weird wheel spin, Ben, but I don't know. I can't think of anything there, but I will mention from the podcast, he did mention that he's partnered with The Gap, and I'm kind of excited to see that as a person who likes clothes. And the fact that he talked about he wants to make it affordable. He actually talked about the fact that he hates that his shoe brand Yeezys have made like their presence so like they're purely on the resale market where people buy them all up and then they sell them for $6,000. He doesn't really like that. He talked about wanting to make shoes that people could buy for $20, but Kanye partnering with The Gap, because I forgot The Gap existed the last like several years. They've really gone down in popularity, but I don't know, a reimagining of the Gap clothing line that's affordable, like to get some like, kind of like not quite casual, but not quite wearing a suit, like, that kind of area of clothing might be pretty cool.
One of my favorite things that he said in the interview, this reminds me of, is when he said he views himself in relation to The Gap as Steve Jobs in relation to Apple.
He kind of said that, yeah.
Yeah, and I was
he said that he used The Gap as the Apple of clothing line, and he meant that like stylistically, like very, very sleek and very minimalist and stuff like that. So, which, yeah, I don't know. This is a weird
Keep
question.
it modest, though, I hope. Yeah.
This is a weird question, Ben.
Talk about minimalism.
Well, it is a weird question, but shut up.
He's gonna fix wolves, Devin.
I would say I would like him to fix. I would like him to tackle wings. I think there's too many people in the wing game, and I need Kanye just to come in, do it the best.
Planes or chicken?
Chicken.
Both.
Okay.
Chicken.
Okay. You had to clarify.
I want to see him fix social media.
He's already doing
okay.
that.
No. I want like his own social media platform to end all platforms where it follows his same sort of stream of consciousness thing. So whenever you click post, it just takes you somewhere completely random.
So it's just the I'm feeling lucky button from Google. Do they still have that?
So Ben, what you want is you want to go down the rabbit hole of YouTube videos, but you want it to come full circle eventually. You know how you click on one YouTube video and then 20 minutes later, you're like, wow, how did I even end up here? This is so bizarre. You want that. except that it brings you back around ultimately.
Here's the thing: when it comes to Kanye, coming back full circle is completely dependent on how long you're willing to stick around for the ride.
True.
And so many of us may just quit, 20 tangents before he does come back. And just so anyway, yeah, like I was saying, butter, awesome. Just like not a thing.
Well, Ben,
So,
I hate to disappoint you, but YouTube already exists. So
Kanye fix YouTube.
Yeah.
Well,
Whatever Kanye fixes,
you would
I
be
want him to
asking
do
for
it
the
through his
complete
position at
opposite
the
then.
Gap.
you would be asking for the complete opposite of what you just desired.
I want to see him try. I want to see what would happen. If they say, hey, Kanye, take this and run with it. Just go.
Well, I mean, I don't know. There might be something there, Ben, because I don't know what you would do about the problem of social media. We talked about the social dilemma weeks and weeks ago.
Neither does Kanye. He's gonna figure it out. That's what we.
Well, that's the thing, though. For the problem of what social media has become, you do need an outside the box thinker, because nobody who thinks the way we do has any kind of answer for how do you put the genie back in the bottle with what social media is.
I have ideas. They're just ones that would cause more problems.
Yeah.
Or I don't want. Like,
Well,
I
there's always
don't
my
want
idea.
all technology to be burned. or
No,
something.
yeah, no.
There's always my
No.
idea of just leave it alone and just kind of let everybody figure it out.
Yeah, well, that's how we got here in the first place.
That's only been going for like 10 years.
Social media?
Like the mass use of it.
Oh no, dude, that goes back decades.
No. I'm not talking about the obscure origins. I'm saying when everybody has it on their phone with them all the time.
Yeah.
So
I'm
your
not talking
issues,
about origins.
then your
I'm
issue's
talking
not with
about-
social media. Your issue's with cell phones.
No, but that's part of the whole social dilemma was the smartphone changed social media.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like the whole like Facebook wasn't the same in 2005 as it was in 2011 when everybody could have it whenever they wanted in their pocket. Same with YouTube. That's my point. I know social media goes back really far.
Right. So as I'm saying, your issues with technology, smart technology, and its accessibility, not social media.
No, I don't have an issue. That's not my point. I'm saying the whole discussion, like, so like you're saying these problems that we've been dealing with, I'm saying they're problems of the last decade, essentially.
Mm-hmm. But where does the fault fall?
I didn't say anything about fault. That's
Oh.
what my whole point was. Just let things keep going. We're acting like, how did we get here? It's just like, well, I mean, it's only been, not even half of our lives. So, and we're young.
Yeah. Some of
So
us,
that's my
some of
point,
us
is
younger
this
than
is-
others.
All of these problems are very, very new, but sometimes we talk about them like they're, as old as time.
Yeah, I would argue that things happen a lot faster in a shorter amount of time, and so they should probably be treated as such. Like, we shouldn't wait a generation before we start trying to figure something out, because it got here a lot faster than maybe it would have in the past. But I agree.
One
I'm
more.
about to sneeze. It's going to be really intrusive. I'm just warning you guys. I feel it.
Actually, well, this one, like, I bumped it and it already landed on one that we haven't done.
No, I think I got it.
Sneeze.
Hey,
One
at some
is
point,
just
I need to go vote because early voting closes today, and I'm a procrastinator, but not an election day procrastinator. So,
Well, okay, fine. This is the last one. This is simply called Punaween. So Halloween tomorrow. These are costumes that are puns. You have to try to guess them as quickly as you can. I know that the screen sharing thing didn't work before, so I'm going to do the sort of ghetto thing and just show up my phone and you'll have to try to guess it. Okay. So let's see. You understand the concept? Okay, good. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
Yeah.
Boxing. He's got a beach boxing.
Fighting. Well, it's on Josh's face right now, so I have to look into the little tiny box.
What do you look at him. It's
Hawaiian punch. I got it.
I was confused because I thought it was a sombrero at first.
Same.
Yeah.
Next.
I can't even see them.
Spice Girls.
Spice Girls. Oh.
This one should be. I think this one's easy, but a lot of people have had a hard time with this one.
Ceiling fan.
Correct.
Boom. You know I was a pun for like the last like 6 Halloweens, so don't test
So
me
was
on my
Ben.
pun game. Huh?
I did Nickelback again on Wednesday. Anna put flowers in her hair, wore a skirt, and then had a list of all of the sauces at Chick-fil-A except for one, and she was Polynesian sauce.
That's funny.
Well, I remember a couple years ago at Josh's Halloween party, I think you showed up as the costume that Josh already was.
No,
And,
somebody else. No, somebody else.
and so Ben goes, give me a knife and a box of cereal. Did you walk around with a knife,
And
Ben?
I was a serial killer.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was already dressed up as Life, and I had a bag of lemons hand out. And when I walked in, like Josh already knew I was going to be that, and he sees me dressed up like that, and didn't bother to inform his roommate. Someone was
That's right.
already-
No, it wasn't my roommate. It was like a friend. It was a different guy. It was funnier because like you didn't even know the guy, and so it was like you couldn't even be like, dude, it's just some guy who was there.
I had a shirt. Anyway,
Yeah,
There's a-
hilarious.
one of my favorites.
Amazon Prime.
Ah,
I thought that one was fantastic. This one's going to be difficult if you can't read their the name on their name tag.
Does it say Chuck and Larry?
No,
just Chuck.
Chuck? and-
Nunchuck.
Nunchucks. Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, the other one
that's a
said
good
Chuck too. Okay.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, guys, if you haven't, oh, sorry.
Oh
There's
wait,
one
no,
more.
we got another one. I can't. It's a foot person. Is that a foot costume?
Josh, stop talking and Ben say something so the camera switches.
Yes, it is.
It's a foot?
Athlete's foot.
No idea.
Football.
Bigfoot.
Oh gosh.
Oh wow, that was so dumb. Oh man.
Oh, God. All right,
Okay.
I'm back.
You guys
Anyway.
want to hear some of my Halloween costumes from the last few years?
Thought you had to
Just a
go
little
vote.
rapid fire? Huh? Yeah, I'll go in a second. I just fine. No, I won't even tell you then. Whatever. I don't even care. It's your choice.
Tell us, Josh, what was your Halloween costume idea?
No, these are ones I actually wore and executed beautifully. Okay, so one time I had sponges all over me and I was self-absorbed. You guys can laugh, when I pause. Then one time I had numbers all over my shirt. I was somebody you can count on. Then there was
That's
another
fun.
time there was a stick person sliding, and then I had the letters DM right next to it. So I was sliding into that DM.
That's funny.
Yeah, right.
I like
Thank
that
you.
one.
I could tell by the looks on your face. You guys are just you appreciate comedic genius. So thank you.
Self-absorbed one's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, the one you can count on, all I kept thinking about was like, you wouldn't. It's someone you can count.
No, you're counting on me.
Yeah, I got
The
it.
numbers were on me. Also, this one was a little more complicated. I had a sign that said no pre-shredded cheese, and I had like a little Kroger bag of shredded cheese with a X on it. And then I wore a cheese grater around my neck, and my shirt said Make America GRATE again. So like great cheese. again,
Okay, that one's kind of good. I like that one.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I still got some sideways looks from people. I'm like, guys, it's about cheese. It's a pun. Like, can we all calm down?
You should have worn like gotten a red MAGA hat, but like customized it to
Yeah.
spell great that way.
Yeah, so somebody could be like, oh, hey, yeah, no, you're right. That is spelled different. I didn't see that.
Anyway, all right. Well, that was fun.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. We will see you guys.
Okay, pagans.
See you guys Tuesday. Oh, we got to announce that. So Tuesday, we're going to be live streaming the election. And
No one's watching at this point.
The whole time?
Yeah. Yes.
not the whole time, no.
Be on the lookout. We're
We'll
gonna.
figure it out.
Here's the thing, guys. We're gonna have to go tell our friends and like post it on our own stuff because no one's watching right now. We missed 1 week and lost our whole audience.
Yeah.
That
Which
might-
already diminished greatly since we switched to a page. But we saw who was real. What's up, that guy from Myanmar?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
it's
I'll see that as well.
him, Gene, and Laura. Y'all are the real.
Yeah.
Y'all the real MVPs. Also, everybody's probably going to be watching Joe Rogan's live stream with Alex Jones and Kyle Kalinske.
Are they doing that?
He's doing an Alex Jones live stream for the election.
Yeah, so Joe Rogan, Kyle Kalinske, one other person, I can't remember who it is, and Alex Jones are going to be live streaming the election. And so when y'all said it yesterday, you guys popped in real quick and were like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, I might be watching that on the side.
All right, then.
Well,
Yeah.
Here's the thing: you got to go print. You got to go print a list of the 50 states, do a pick 'em, and we'll submit those.
We'll put some games for it.
Oh, let's put some money lines down on states.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
sure
that's
there's
illegal. So,
well, I'm sure somebody has them, and we can encourage our viewers.
But like,
in
yeah,
Nevada
Texas
or
going blue. Like, what is it?
Yeah.
Minus 350, minus 400. That
would-
would be kind of fun to do. So.
minus 400 for Texas going blue. I'll take you setting that. I'll take that bet.
No, I'm not saying. I was using
Okay.
it.
I was like,
I wasn't trying to make that an actual line.
yeah, I'll bet red on those numbers.
Yeah.
all right. Well, that sounds like fun.
No, it'd be
If-
plus 400 to be the underdog, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had it backwards. Yeah.
Anyway, I gotta drive to Tarrant County to participate in our glorious democracy. All hail the one true state.
Yep. All right.
Yeah.
we'll see you guys later.
Hey guys.